How much money in the end, was riding on the election returns, the U.S. presidential election returns?
On Kalshi, it was the total amount traded. They say it was $505 million.
That's a lot of money.
So much money, yeah. And on Polymarket, it was even bigger amount. Yeah, it was $3.6 billion.
So more money on these markets than was invested in campaign contributions?
Right.
Nitish Pahwa covers business and technology at Slate, which this year has meant covering election betting. Because on election night, while many voters across the country were focused on who would win the presidential election, a growing number of Americans were also watching the returns with another question in mind. Will I win or lose money? Who are these people? You'll meet some in this episode. But first, you need some context because this has all been changing quickly. In early October, basically a month before Election Day, a judge ruled that for the first time in almost a century, Americans could bet vast amounts of money on the outcome of political races. The judge's ruling opened things up in a big way for a platform called Kalshi. Kalshi is a prediction market based in New York City, and it's a platform that invites people to bet on the outcomes of future events, like betting on the range of a high temperature in a certain city, or a movie's Rotten Tomatoes score, or whether or not there will be a major earthquake in the continental U.S. before year end. And while Kalshi's been in operation since 2021, this ruling allowed them to also take bets on political contests. Before October, there were other places to bet on U.S. elections. You might have heard of PredictIt and Polymarket. But Polymarket was only open to people living outside the U.S., though many people got around that via VPNs, which allowed them to hide the U.S. origins of their bets. And PredictIt had strict limits on the amount you could wager. Kalshi has fewer guardrails. And it was on Kalshi where the two American voters I talked to for this episode made their bets. One who lost money and one who won big.
You know, if I would have lost the money, I think that money probably represented a little over 3 years of savings. Mm-hmm. That's a big setback. I wouldn't have been destitute, but I would have been partially financially destitute.
This is Death, Sex, and Money. The show from Slate about the things we think about a lot and need to talk about more. I'm Anna Sale.
Hey, aren't you that PBM?
Middleman, at your service, doctor.
Don't you get rebates that save money on medicines?
Oh, PBMs like me get big rebates.
So why do patients tell me they're worried about their costs?
No one says we have to share the savings with patients.
Congress should make sure medicine savings go directly to patients, not middlemen. Visit phrma.org/middlemen to learn more. Paid for by pharma.
Who decided to gamble their hard-earned money on the outcome of the U.S. election? One was a guy we're calling Mike. Our producer Zoe tracked him down after he posted about it on Reddit.
I felt like Kamala had run such a perfect campaign, and it felt like Donald Trump had become really unhinged towards the end of the campaign. And I just felt like there's absolutely no way this man is going to get reelected.
Mike has been voting Democratic since he came to the U.S. and legally could vote. He moved from Mexico when he was 18, and he's now in his early 50s, lives in Washington State, and works with computers. He was intrigued when he heard about Kalshi and election betting, but he was private about it, and still is. Mike is not his real name.
I was just browsing Reddit, and then all of a sudden the ad was fed to me, and I clicked on it. I became very curious. So I'm like, okay, it looks like there's some opportunity here to make a little bit of money. And wouldn't it be great if I could make a little bit of money off the MAGA supporters too? That would be also a little bit nice.
Uh-huh.
My first bet was for $2,500, and it was a 60-40 split. And then I came back and I thought, I feel like I could go for a little bit more, right? So my total position at the end was right under $10,000 for a total payout of $24,000.
And that first bet of $2,500 in your life, like when you think about how easy it is to spend $2,500, like if you, if you were going to buy an actual object, how much planning does it take in your life and in your budget to spend that kind of money? Or do you feel like you kind of got it if you see something you want?
No, it's definitely an amount that I would put some thought into it. In fact, not long ago, I bought a television, and that's exactly what it cost, around $2,500. And I did 6 months of research before I pulled the trigger. So I don't know what I was thinking.
What Mike was thinking was that Kamala Harris was going to win. He was following major polls closely, and those public polls were very close. Some showed Harris with a slight edge. And it seemed to him like she had a slight edge. The odds on Kalshi, however, favored Trump, which meant a higher payout if Harris won. To Mike, those odds just reflected the type of people who used Kalshi, not what was actually going to happen.
I think a lot of people are going to view this election as like a positive referendum on betting markets in politics.
That's my Slate colleague, Nitish Pahwa again. In the end, Kalshi did have it right. The average odds from 5 political betting markets favored Trump heading into Election Day, according to the aggregator site Election Betting Odds. The chief executive of Kalshi gloated about that on X after Trump's victory. Polls 0, prediction markets 1, he wrote. And like a lot of journalists, Tish looked at the prediction markets when he was reporting on politics.
I mean, it's messy. There's just a lot of room for manipulation. There's a lot of room for just like someone could come in, pour in a ton of money on one side, and then that affects the perception. So I know that people's faith in polling traditionally has been kind of shaken over the past like decade or so, and I think for not unfair reasons. But I think we need to take it as this is what a certain segment of the public is thinking. This is not what the public at large is thinking, right?
Who is betting on U.S. elections on Kalshi? Do you have a sense?
Yeah, there are a lot of like crypto enthusiasts, especially, who like love these platforms. But I think it's more just like a general zeal and enthusiasm to get involved in the game, because political betting is also
that's so gross.
I know. It's like because there's such a community built around political gambling too. Like there are these people who really see themselves as like oracles or part of like a more foreseeing project. Like there are big comment sections where people are always talking, Discord channels where people are like explaining their reasoning for getting one way or the other. And I think for them, it's literally just like, we want to be a part of something that we think is the future. You know, Polymarket's branding like always thinks of itself as like, look, we're kind of like the future of predictions and news and whatnot. And people are very zealous about it.
It's like a way, when you make your bet, you're anticipating being able to tell people how informed your bet was and why you were smarter than the markets, et cetera.
Right, exactly. Yeah, you can take your little digital paycheck to folks and be like, yeah, I got this much money on the election. Ask me what I knew.
I was resolute in my confidence, so I just said, well, it's a sure bet to me, so I'm just going to empty it out as much as I can. I mean, I even put my last 3 paychecks, I even redeemed my credit card points and put those in.
Jordan is 31. He lives in California and works in agriculture, doing analytics for a food supplier. And even though he's on the West Coast, he told me in his life, he's mostly surrounded by Trump supporters, both online and where he lives.
Basically, everyone in my office is conservative. My family all voted for Trump. So I'm still in a bubble. But yeah, my neighbors are big liberals. They're New York Times subscribers. And, they wanted a different outcome. But they're great people.
It's funny you say New York Times subscribers as a signifier of liberals. They're so liberal, they're New York Times subscribers.
Yeah.
Jordan first heard about political betting in 2020. He saw an ad on the conservative website Drudge Report. Jordan says he doesn't normally gamble. He doesn't go to casinos or bet on sports. He doesn't drink or smoke either. But 4 years ago, he bet on Trump with the platform Predict It, which limits bets to $850.
And the embarrassing thing is we had a family group chat. And when he was up, I texted a video like, hey, look at how much I'm up. And then and then I went to bed and woke up and, whoa, what happened? So my family kind of makes fun of me for that.
The perils of gloating on a family text chain.
Exactly. Yeah.
And can you describe for me why you chose to do that when, stopping in the casinos, putting some money, in a slot machine doesn't appeal to you? Why putting money on an election? Why was that something you wanted to try?
The way I bet in 2020 was different than 2024. I will admit that in 2020, that was a little bit more of a casino type thing where I kind of ignored the polls. I didn't do research and I just said, well, the polls are wrong and I know he's down, but I think he's going to win anyways. So yeah, it was more like a casino thing back then. This time, I believe it was far more educated.
And what made you so convinced?
So this is a little weird, but it was following accounts on X. So one of them was Mark Halperin. I don't know if you've heard of him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
he's a
political the writer,
right,
thinker.
Yeah, as Ryan Gerdusky. It was this anonymous account. I don't know who the guy is, but his name is Latinx Adjacent Doctor. That's his, pseudonym. He has like 13,000 followers. And basically,
that doesn't sound like someone with a lot of authority.
Exactly.
How'd you
that's
pick
why
him?
It's kind of crazy. I just saw him on my feed. I guess based on the accounts I was following, and what all three of them were doing, and others, but largely those three, they were really parsing out the early voting data as it was coming in because certain states release data, and what it was showing was a depressed Black turnout in the metro areas of Atlanta and increased white rural turnout, like just on fire.
Mm-hmm. And I think you are certainly not alone in being an American voter who got way too into parsing these kinds of data sets and figuring out what they were going to talk about, at work, at the water cooler, or over dinner parties, or the sidelines of soccer games, et cetera. You took it that other step of saying, I'm so certain I'm going to put my own money.
Yes.
And not a small amount of money.
Right. I ended up I didn't do it all at once. So when it opened, I put $5,000, but on election day, I had 60,000 in there.
I don't know. I don't know what your personal finances look like and how you keep your money, but is that to put together $60,000 that you can kind of send over to a platform? Did that take moving money from different accounts to make sure you had enough to get all that over to them?
No, I had 70,000 combined in my checking and savings, and in stocks I had about 140,000, but I didn't want to sell those yet.
So that's 85% of your available liquid assets.
Yes. So, and I want to be clear. when I say that I was confident, I do mean that. It wasn't false bravado after the fact, just because it worked out for me and I won. I was resolute in my confidence, but I would say 5 or 6 times I did kind of have a mini panic session.
Mm-hmm. And what would you do when that would happen? What happened?
I go to the gym almost every day, and I lift weights, and in between my set, I'm just resting. Mm-hmm. And even though I was confident, the sheer gravity of how much I was betting would hit me. Thoughts would just race through my head like, what are you doing? You know how reckless this is, right? If you're not right like you think you are, you're crazy. You're hamstringing your financial future, your plans for your future. You're nuts. But then I would go home and comfort myself with the data on Twitter.
In the lead up to the election, Jordan didn't tell anyone about the big bet he was making. And coming up, what he plans to do with his $50,000 in winnings.
To me, the bet kind of represented the sum of my exasperation in life. Of this will give me some money to move somewhere and start a new life, I guess.
This episode is about one of the latest technological and social shifts that has the potential to change all our lives. And change, it just keeps coming for us. I know that after 10 years of making this show and interviewing people, including some of you. Sometimes change is sneaky and steady, like aging. Other times it comes with a shock, something that fundamentally shifts and you can't go back except in memory. Both of these types of change have been in my life in the last year, and it's made me newly appreciative of souvenirs, things that help me remember and connect back to who I am. Like, as I redecorated my office space when Death, Sex, and Money moved to Slate earlier this year, I spent a lot of time digging up and displaying little trinkets, photos, and beloved books, and I surround myself with them now. It feels good to see in 3D so much of what I like and have cared about. And in that spirit, I want to announce we have some new Death, Sex, and Money merch to share with you. We have 2 new tote bags. They're screen printed by Kinship Goods, a print and design shop in my hometown of Charleston, West Virginia. One of the new tote bags is our Death, Sex, and Money logo on a natural cream-colored background. It's the first time we've had a Death, Sex, and Money bag in that color. And the other tote bag is a new design that I worked on with artist Autumn Liker. It's a black tote with an orange and black graphic that shows interwoven paths. And in all caps, it says, "The future is relational." This came up in our episode earlier this year with climate activist Jess Sarante and Buddhist systems theorist Joanna Macy. And since then, I haven't been able to get this idea out of my head. The future is relational. We don't know if it's going to be good, bad, or neutral. But I do know about the future, that it is relational. We are going to affect one another. We need one another. We have to figure out how to listen to one another. And if done right, more of us will thrive, and it's not going to be a zero-sum outcome. You can find both of these new tote bags at the link in our show notes, or just go to kinshipgoods.com/deathsexmoney. And Kinship tells me that if you order by December 16th, your new tote bags will arrive by Christmas. After a night out with drinks, it can be tough to bounce back the next day. But with pre-alcohol probiotic by ZBiotics, there's a way to wake up feeling fresh after a night of drinking. Their probiotic was invented by PhD scientists to tackle rough mornings after drinking. Here's how it works. When you drink, alcohol gets converted into a toxic byproduct in the gut. It's this byproduct, not dehydration, that's to blame for your rough next day. Pre-alcohol produces an enzyme to break this byproduct down. This is a proactive solution that wards off feeling miserable the next day instead of a reactive approach like drinking electrolytes or eating greasy food. Also, ZBiotics is continuing to invent probiotics that will help with everyday challenges of modern living. Go to zbiotics.com/DSM to learn more and get 15% off your first order when you use DSM at checkout. ZBiotics is backed with a 100% money-back guarantee, so if you're unsatisfied for any reason, they'll refund your money, no questions asked. Remember to head to zbiotics.com/DSM and use the code DSM at checkout for 15% off. This episode is brought to you by Public.com. Did you know you can lock in a 6% or higher yield with a bond account at Public.com? The Federal Reserve recently announced rate cuts, and there could be more rate cuts this year and in 2025 as well. That's good news if you're looking to buy a home, but it might not be so good for the interest you earn on your cash. So if you want to lock in a 6% or higher yield with a diversified portfolio of high yield and investment-grade bonds, check out Public.com. It only takes a couple of minutes to sign up, and once you lock in your yield, you can earn regular interest payments even as rates decline. Lock in a 6% or higher yield with a bond account at Public.com/DSM. But remember, your yield is not locked in until you invest. Brought to you by Public Investing, member FINRA and SIPC. As of September 26, 2024, the average annualized yield to worst across the bond account is greater than 6%. Yield to worst is not guaranteed, not an investment recommendation. All investing involves risk. Visit public.com/disclosures/bond-account for more info. This episode is brought to you by Saks.com. There's joy in finding the perfect gift for the ones you love, but it can be a challenge. Saks.com's holiday gift guide makes it easy. Whether you're surprising your hard-to-shop-for sister with a Chloe bracelet bag or gifting your partner a memorable scent from Gucci, at Saks.com, there's holiday inspiration for every personality on your list. I can remember as a kid, my mom took a trip to New York right around this time of year and went to Saks. And she came home with a few items that I remember feeling they were so sophisticated and luxurious and special. And that's kind of what I think about when I go to Saks.com and look around. When you go to the holiday gift guide, I went to the stocking stuffers section and immediately saw these really cool perfume sets that could be a nice gift for someone, some new Ray-Ban sunglasses. I also noticed some La Mer face cream that maybe I would enjoy. You can add instant cheer to your home with some bright decor or bundle up in a scarf coat from Totem to stay warm all season long. Saks.com's hand-picked guide can help take the stress out of the holidays by helping you choose gifts for your loved ones and maybe one or two for yourself. Find gifts guaranteed to bring joy to everyone this holiday season at Saks.com. That's Saks.com for the ultimate holiday gift guide and all the shopping inspiration you need. This is Death, Sex, and Money from Slate. I'm Anna Sale. For Jordan in California, betting on a Trump victory in 2024 was also aligned with his politics. He has supported Trump in every election since 2016. Three-time Trump voter, like when you think about what you're voting for when you vote for Trump, how would you describe that?
Well, I guess I'm kind of a stereotype in some ways. I grew up going to church, conservative background. And even though I don't attend church anymore, those kind of principles have still rubbed off on me to some extent. And, for all the faults and flaws that he has, I think at the very least he can nominate justices to the Supreme Court that can outlast him and kind of steer it away from more progressive policies that I disagree with.
Mm-hmm. Is that things like social issues, like abortion rights? Or what comes to mind when you think about what's important to you at the court level?
That, and I think that a lot of the LGBT stuff, I of course I understand accepting people. I don't want to be mean to anyone. But I think ultimately it will end up in a dark place where there could be, banning speech, banning preachers from, preaching the Bible and what it has to say regarding those issues. And I think that a lot of the trans issue, I think it could result in the dissolution of parental rights for children, not notifying parents if their child wants to transition and stuff like that. So yeah, it's kind of big for me.
Mm-hmm. What I hear you saying, you sort of see it as protecting religious freedom.
Right.
Parental rights is kind of thinking about the authority of the family as opposed to the authority of the state. If you think of public education as the state, that sort of thing.
Correct.
What kind of church did you grow up in?
It was non-denominational, more charismatic, and we actually didn't go to church a lot. But when I was in college, I was really, really involved, and honestly, to the point that I thought I was going to become a minister.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then why not? Why not become a minister?
I just, believe it or not, and I know this is hard to believe, but I used to read the Bible and pray during certain times in college for like 6 hours a day.
Uh-huh.
Sometimes 8 more. And I went through an intense period of, fasting, and I was kind of emaciated. It was a really traumatic time in my life. And it's embarrassing to admit, but I kind of had a mental breakdown after it, and I just left the church.
Yeah. Oh, that sounds.
I know
really,
that's weird, but
it's not weird. It's different people. We deal with stress in different ways, and that sounds like a difficult time.
Yeah.
Now I want to ask a little bit more about gambling.
I know. Here I am talking about becoming a minister, and then 10 years later.
When you think of like the feeling in your body when you thought, like, was it a thrill to like place those bets and think about how you were going to be able to cash out with those returns? Like, was it kind of a thrill that you don't have otherwise in your life?
Somewhat. Yeah. I mean, there's the data reason why I bet. And then there's, I wouldn't say darker. I think that's too strong of a word, but a more serious undertone.
Mm-hmm.
I want to move. I have a social life, but it's a little more thin than I would like. I want to meet new people.
Mm-hmm.
I'm single. I do desire to, have a wife and a family. And at my job, it's kind of become the epitome of a dead end job. It's been 3 years without a raise. I'm kind of on autopilot, just clocking in and out.
Mm-hmm.
And so just today at work, I was looking up the cost of living in different cities, and I just want to move to an area where there's more people. There's a ton of people in California, but not really where I'm at. So my dream would be to live in New York City, but I don't think that's realistic with how expensive it is there. But
I will tell you, not that many New Yorkers I know have that much cash in their checking and savings accounts. So I think you're in good position. They make it work.
Oh, really?
Yes. I'm curious, like, when you think about major metropolitan cities, having looked at election returns, the proportion of Trump voters is probably smaller in these places where you are feeling drawn to.
That's true. Yeah. But I'm just someone who, I've seen videos of people wanting to cut family members out of their life because they voted differently. And I just think that's insane. I mean, I have a cousin who lives in Seattle. I'm going to see her for Christmas, and she's very, very far left. but I love her because she's my cousin. So I can absolutely look past someone voting differently than me.
Mm-hmm. When you picture New York City, what would be fun about life there? Are you picturing yourself in a Manhattan apartment? Are you picturing yourself in Central Park? Are you picturing yourself meeting somebody at a comedy show? Like, what do you picture?
Yeah, all of that. Just to be somewhere where there's greater opportunity to meet people, to be somewhere that's bustling with millions of people right by you, right outside your apartment. I'm just not satisfied right now, and it's been boiling over for a while. It's kind of reached its breaking point, and that's what the bet was about. Use it to launch yourself somewhere new.
Coming up,
one thing I think of is there's probably some poor guy who's just like me who bet on Kamala, and he's set back 3 years. So I'm like, wow, poor guy.
As the weather turns cooler, there are so many things to look forward to. Putting on slippers first thing in the morning, cooking up a big pot of stew, and slipping into cozy sweaters from Quince. I've been wearing my fisherman's crew neck sweater from Quince a lot. I slip it on over a button-down or a long-sleeve shirt, and it has this classic autumn look that makes me feel okay, welcoming the shorter days and the falling leaves. And another bonus, it's an affordable addition to my sweater rotation. Quince items are priced 50 to 80% less than similar brands. That includes beautiful leather jackets, cotton cardigans, soft denim, and more. How are they able to do that? They partner directly with top factories and cut out the cost of the middleman, which passes the savings on to us. And Quince only works with factories that use safe, ethical, and responsible manufacturing practices. And of course, premium fabrics and finishes for that luxury feel in every piece. Get cozy in Quince's high-quality wardrobe essentials. Go to quince.com/DSM for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. That's QUINCE.com/DSM to get free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/DSM. You know when you discover a new binge-worthy show or a song that you bump on repeat and share it with all your friends? That's what it can feel like when you discover Mint Mobile offers premium wireless for $15 a month when you purchase a 3-month plan. Slate's president Charlie Kammerer is using Mint Mobile, and he says he thinks this deal is amazing. He's on that $15 a month deal and is getting unlimited talk and text over their 5G network at literally a fraction of what he was paying with someone else. And they let him use his existing phone, and he didn't have to change his phone number. All plans come with high-speed data and unlimited talk and text delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. Use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and bring your phone number along with all your existing contacts. To get this new customer offer and your new 3-month premium wireless plan for just $15 a month, go to mintmobile.com/DSM. That's mintmobile.com/DSM. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/DSM. $45 upfront payment is required, which is equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Speed slower after 40 gigabytes on unlimited plan. Additional taxes, fees, and restrictions apply. See Mint Mobile for details. On election night, Mike, the Harris supporter who put money on a Harris win, was at a friend's house drinking wine and making dinner. He watched results on CNN and also on the betting platforms, which were predicting wider and wider victory margins for Trump.
When it became very clear on election night that we were not going to win, to tell the truth, to me, the most painful part about this was not losing the money. It was just the outcome of the election that really hurt the most.
You really weren't thinking about the money?
Mostly. A little bit about the money, of course. But to me, it was the direction of the country.
Was it troubling to you? You thought this was such a safe bet. Was it troubling to you that your sense of reality about your fellow Americans and how they would vote, that it was so off? Was that troubling?
It was very troubling, given that his stance on immigration, his stance on tariffs, which doesn't really make sense. I just couldn't fathom how even Latino men, I'm a Latino man myself, how Latino men would actually support someone who wants to deport and send all the people back. How would you support someone with such poor moral character? That to me just didn't seem like a likely scenario. And clearly I was wrong.
But one of the ways Trump's win has benefited Mike is through crypto. The price of Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies have risen since November 5th. So has the stock market. And
I have more than made up my loss on the financial market thanks to this. So it's kind of like on an unintended consequence, but that's not really the outcome I wanted. But I'll take it. I'll take it. I've more than made it up.
So your net worth on paper post-election is higher with the gambling loss compared to pre-election.
Yes, yes. Isn't that ironic?
Yes. And have you been online as much as usual post-election as you were before? Or have you changed your...
No, I have not. I have not. So in fact, I deactivated my Twitter account because I did not find it very healthy to try and engage in conversations with people that clearly it was just not productive. And I've also taken a break from social media because I just didn't find it very healthy or very useful. One of the things that I love to do is watch the late night talk shows, you know, the Colberts and Jimmy Kimmel's and things like that. And I know it's very humorous, but from a mental health perspective, I just need a break. I need to take like a 1 month break or 2 month break, and then I'll go back. I'll ease into that. But for right now, I feel like I'm trying to focus on listening to audiobooks, different podcasts, working out, bettering myself.
Yeah. It's like you've gone through a breakup. And you're in that phase where you're like, I'm going to take care of myself, control what I can. You know what I mean?
Totally. I got divorced about 4 years ago, and I lost about 40 pounds in the following 3 months. It was the best thing that could happen to my health.
Uh-huh. And how old are your girls, your daughters?
14 and 12.
14 and 12. What have you found yourself talking with them about after the election?
They were very sad, too. About the outcome of the election, but quite frankly, I don't think they really, they were like, oh, that's too bad, I'm sad, but they weren't like, it didn't really affect their lives. As far as they know, life moves on, and that's the way I want to think about it. Yeah.
Do they know you lost money?
No. No, I want them to be proud of their dad. Come on. No.
So for both these guys, things worked out okay financially, though Mike's personal pride and sense of America have taken hits. But if other trends hold, with more money being gambled all the time, there are going to be some big losers, where more people have more money on the line. The ruling on Kalshi comes in the wake of a big Supreme Court decision in 2018, which opened the door to legal sports betting. Since then, all sorts of betting platforms have popped up, making betting from home on your phone easier. Americans bet more than $120 billion on sports last year. That was up 46% from the previous year, according to the American Gambling Association. Here's Nitish again.
As someone who went to a big state school that's very big into sports betting, it's like it very much disturbed me when I would go back and I would see like a big Caesars Sportbook ad at like Spartan Stadium. And I'm like, oh God, like if I were a college kid and I were seeing this, like, would I have just wanted to dump all my money here, right?
I have to say, when I just recently went to Kalshi for the first time, and I felt like I was going to a porn site. Like I felt like and what I mean by that is like, oh my God, I don't know if I want to know I can look at this because of, temptation.
Yeah.
And how much should we be worried about just the further gamification of real life and problem gambling? Everybody looking for that hit.
Mm-hmm. I personally am very worried. I mean, I feel like we're already at a point now where there is a larger reckoning over what happened to like the mass legalization of sports betting. You know, there are a lot of folks who really just fell very deep down the hole. You know, these are addictive apps and they run for an industry that a lot of people are invested in. You know, I've posited this hypothetical before, but you can absolutely see someone who like throws in a ton of money on a certain candidate, whether like a local or higher level race, and really wants to make it happen so badly that they decide they want to like interfere with the election in some way. I mean, wow. There's just so much more room for compromise. And yeah, I do worry that we're going to be bringing just some of like our worst like impulses to our elections, which are already suffering from a crisis of trust. And yeah, I don't know what the future is going to look like there.
That's Nitish Pahwa, a business and technology writer here at Slate. Thank you to Jordan and the Harris supporter and Better we called Mike for talking to us. This episode was produced by Zoe Azoulay. Death, Sex, and Money is produced by Slate. Please support the production of our show by becoming a member of Slate Plus. You'll not only be supporting our work on Death, Sex, and Money, you'll also get access to benefits like ad-free listening to all of the great shows that Slate makes, like Slow Burn and Decoder Ring, along with Death, Sex, and Money. And we also have special Slate Plus drops just for members. You can subscribe directly from the Death, Sex, and Money show page on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, or go to slate.com/DSM Plus to get access wherever you listen. The rest of the Death, Sex, and Money team includes Andrew Dunn and Cameron Drews. Daisy Rosario is our senior supervising producer at Slate. Alicia Montgomery is Slate's head of audio. Our theme music is by the Reverend John DeLore and Steve Lewis. If you are new to our show, welcome. We are glad you're here. You can find us and follow us on Instagram at DeathSexMoney. And I write a weekly newsletter at annasale.substack.com. Subscribe and our show notes. You can also reach us anytime with voice memos, pep talks, questions, or critiques. Our email address is deathsexmoney@slate.com. We love hearing from you. I'm Anna Sale, and this is Death, Sex, and Money from Slate.